Hello and welcome to the Sky Blue Times YouTube channel. Today we're going to be looking at Sverre Nypan in more detail, a player expected to sign for Manchester City very soon, medical due the past week, and a loan spell is yet to be confirmed for the player that's going to be moving from Rosenborg to Manchester City in the long term. So yeah, we're going to dive into the player, find out a lot more about them. If you're a member of the 9320, then you would have seen a podcast that I did do with a Norwegian journalist covering a player in more detail, his upbringing, and today I'm just going to dive into the player in more detail. So yes, if we look back at January, there was a lot of discussions going on around the player about where he would go, similar to Haaland, that kind of process. Obviously he's got the same agent as Haaland, looking at all these different clubs, assessing what is the best option for him. There was talk about Man City setting up him going to Girona, and that wouldn't have necessarily been an ideal situation for him. That was what was reported at the time. You've got Aston Villa that were very interested. Supposedly he had chosen them initially. Arsenal expressed interest, and there was meant to be other clubs as well that were making proposals to the player that he was going around to see. And that was all off the back of a very impressive season for Rosenborg when he was 17, turning 18 at the time. Really impressive player that was kind of broke into the first team and then become a real regular for them. Now, one of the most kind of like impressive qualities for Nypan at such a young age, playing in the league, playing men's football the way he is doing at the moment, was something that was covered in one of the scouted issues where they were looking at Scandinavian football, the talent that was coming through over there. You think about Bergvall that's moved to Spurs and how impressive he's been his very first season thrown in at the deep end. Obviously they haven't had the best seasons, but just looking at him as an individual to come from the league he did and move straight into the Premier League and perform the way he did, it was quite a leap that he handled very, very well. And if you're going to look at the league in Norway where Nypan is playing, you look at him compared to other midfielders in that same league. As Scouted is covered here, these are very impressive numbers for a player that isn't really fully developed at all yet. This season he would have been 17. You look here, explosive acceleration to high-speed runs, and then explosive accelerations to sprints. Nypan performs very well, and this is not the top end of what he will be capable of. And that's something we also saw with Vitor Hayes, something Scout had also covered when they were looking at Brazilian centre-backs and looking at the physical data for them. Vitor Hayes was performing very well relative to the other centre-backs in the Brazilian league. Yet, again, being 17, 18 at the time when he was playing, that's not the upper end of what he's going to be able to do with his physicality, with his athleticism as he develops and as he matures. So that's something that's really stood out. It's kind of been a staple of all the players that we've seen City recruit, both this summer and in the January window. You can see the kind of physicality that they are looking for in these players. And then when you kind of build on that and then take that into what runs that Nypan has seen doing, then you see that he performs very well. 80, 93rd percentile here for runs in behind, runs ahead of the ball. You look about pulling wide, you think about a number 8 that moves outside like Gundogan does, like Tijani Reinders was doing in his first game, like Kovacic does do as well. Nypan does that very, very well. Cross receiver runs, which kind of really does highlight the fact that this guy does get into the box for a midfielder. And when you're going through the games, if you go back and watch a Rosenborg game, watch any of the kind of clips of him online, you will see a player that makes these runs ahead of the ball, and this is one, the winger playing the ball in behind, and that is Sverre Nypan making that run to pick up this ball. And there's plenty more examples. Here's just another one, again, winger putting the ball in behind, Sverre Nypan making the run in behind ahead of the ball to then receive that pass. This is something that he's shown throughout that season, and that's something, if you look back at Manchester City in the previous season, one thing that really stood out was that they lacked movement in the midfield. They lacked midfielders that would run ahead of the ball, that would give them a lot of movement and create space for one another. And so you look at him as a midfielder, you look at Tijani Reinders that they brought in, you look at Nico Gonzalez as well. Like, you've got a lot of players that will add a lot more energy to that midfield and make a lot more runs. So this is a brilliant graphic showing his progressive carries and progressive passes. Obviously, really does stand out. The fact that he can progress the ball excellent down the left side, particularly the left half space, progressing the ball from deep through central spaces, and then if you look in and around the box, you're looking at a player that is looking to penetrate, find all these passes into the box, whether it is crosses, whether it's playing the through balls, and then there's a lot of switches and long passes out wide to the winger, to the fullback on the opposite side from him. And if you look at this example here, he's willing to play these first time passes. He gets it from his teammate straight in, first time all the way through to his teammate making a run in behind the opposition back line. He'll play those quick first time passes. That's something City fans have been kind of desperate to see from their players. And when you've seen the new signings come in the first couple of games in the Club World Cup, that is something that has stood out straight away. Players that make these runs. You look at this one here. He receives the ball just outside the box. Player applying the pressure, makes a move, carries over to this side, and then, as you see here, he then plays this pass into the box for his winger. This is a pass we saw Tijani Reinders play for Jeremy Doku when he was making a run into the box. So it gives you a bit of a clue of where I see Sverre Nypan playing. Is in this left half space. It's being that left 8. And you look at his abilities we discussed so far in this video. He's somebody that can carry the ball very well. He's somebody that is very good making those progressive passes, and he's also got that kind of composure in the box to play these nice passes into the forward players. So yeah, he ticks a lot of boxes that we've seen Tijani Reinders tick, that we've seen Ilkay Gundogan at his very best. And so yeah, it tells you a lot about the midfielder that they're getting and that Manchester City are looking for in particular. Here's another one, kind of combining his carrying ability. Again, 17, 18 years old this season, carrying the ball through midfield under a lot of pressure from behind. He's able to carry the ball forward. He's got his teammate running ahead of the ball here, carries the ball all the way to the edge of the box, and then has the composure to play this pass across for him to shoot and score. So you're seeing that combination of his carrying ability and his passing ability in the final third from Sverre Nypan. And then dribbling, carrying, as I mentioned, this is something that he's been very good at already at a young age, only a couple seasons in the league, and he's able to dribble his way through central spaces and be particularly effective, whether it is out wide, whether it is in more central spaces. That is a real strength of Sverre Nypan, and we see that as well in the deeper position. So we look at the build up, we look at when Rosenborg are recovering the ball in and around their box. Nypan's got the ball here, and then he's able to dribble his way out of pressure, give his team a solution, and then he lays his pass off over here. So you're not just seeing somebody that's able to use that ability to progress the ball into the final third, but he's also able to use it in the build-up in more deeper positions. So yeah, just shows the kind of strength that he has and where he can use it all across the pitch. And then the other thing that you'll definitely see when you're looking at comps, when you're watching the odd games of him play, is that this is a guy that will get into the box to score goals. So whether it is right at the back post, whether it's arriving in the middle for a first-time shot, he's more than willing to make those runs. As I've mentioned, pulling out wide to receive the ball, he will make those runs into the box himself as well. Something that we've seen Gundogan be famous for across his Manchester City career. This is what he can do. So you're looking at all these goals that he's picking up. They're all in central spaces. They're all in and around the 6-yard box. And that is something that he's already got a real kind of knack for, a real kind of like smell of where the goal is at his young age. And that's really a special kind of skill to already have in his first couple of seasons. So yeah, that is something to keep an eye on. And you look back at everything I mentioned across this video, you've got somebody that is excellent carrying a ball, that's dangerous with their passing in and around the box, that's willing to make these selfish runs and be very generous to his teammates, as well as looking to get into the box and arrive on the end of passes to take shots and score goals. And then when we're talking about off the ball, and I'd mentioned his running capacity at the start, and that is involved when Rosenborg does have the ball, but is also involved when they're off the ball. So you've got a player already very early on that's active across the pitch. So particularly around this left-hand side where he does play for Rosenborg, he is always applying pressure on the ball, always looking to make interceptions and win back possession for his team. And that's something that's only going to improve as he learns more about his position and gets into a more structured team at a higher level, as his physicality improves as he gets older. But when you're looking at him in those first couple seasons, to perform the way he does defensively and then all the stuff he does on the ball, it is very impressive, and that is why so many clubs were interested in the player in particular. And then when we move into Manchester City and where he could go, so he's absolutely going to go out on loan. From what I understand, either Germany, Spain or Portugal is where he will be going out on loan, despite the fact that City were meant to send somebody to Lyon on loan in France. Those are the three countries that, from what I've heard, that's going to be his destination. So for next season, he's going to go on loan. He does need that loan. You can't just come straight in from the Norwegian League into the Premier League, in particular, it being at Manchester City. So you do want to try and make sure he has the time to scale up in the physicality, to have the minutes to make that move before he then can come in around the first team. So after he does that loan, then we're talking about him coming into Manchester City first team for 2026. You think about, by the time we get there, whether Mateo Kovacic, Bernardo Silva, Ilkay Gundogan are around or leaving this summer, more than likely all three of those will be gone by 2026. And that is exactly the kind of space I'm looking for when you think about him coming in that year. You need another midfielder to come in. You have a very settled squad by the time you get there. You'd expect Tijani Reinders to have settled in as the starter, as the number 8. You'd expect Rodri to have returned to his kind of full capacity, that he's playing regular games. He's the main number 6. You've got Nico Gonzalez that I would expect to have learned a 6 role in more detail, to be more confident in that position, to be able to provide rotation minutes, playing alongside Rodri, playing alongside Tijani Reinders, be an 8, be a 6. And so those are your kind of like main midfielders that are playing deeper. So then to bring in Sverre Nypan behind, he can then be the depth option there, somebody that can definitely do that kind of 6-8 job, that has a lot of skills, as I mentioned across the video, with carrying, with his passing ability, works tirelessly defensively, but it's not going to come in with that immediate load of you're going to start a lot of games, and can be slowly eased in, bedded into the first team, get to know everybody, slowly learn the system, learn from Pep Guardiola, and then start to progress his way into minutes across that season. And then over the next 2 seasons after that, you can start to see him work his way into becoming a starting player for Manchester City. That would be kind of ideal thing for him. And from everything that I've read about the player, from the podcast that I've done, talking to a journalist about the player, it's his mentality, it's the fact that he's very mature at a young age, and he's incredibly curious tactically about what he can learn. So you've got a guy that's risen very quickly through the ranks. So you think about, by the time he was 15, he was in the under-21s for Norway. When he was 14, he was already in and around the first team for Rosenborg. To be able to do that, there's a reason behind it, and that is because he is mature, because he has a strong mentality, that he can get on with his teammates, that he can handle the adversity, handle the pressure, and is so willing to learn and progress, and that's what's helped him significantly across his career so far, to move all the way up that he has. By the time he's 18, looking at a move to Manchester City, and within a couple of years he could be in and around the first team. That leap is built on the way he is as a person. So yeah, a very exciting move. I think that would be my projection for him, to go out, have that loan spell, then be a depth option the season after that. And then by the time we're looking at 2027, you've got a player that wants to try and break his way into the first team as a more regular starter. He is considered to be similar to Odegaard, similar to Haaland, when you're talking about level of prospect at the age that he was coming through, at the same age they were coming through. So when they are 17, 18, that's how highly rated within Norway those players are compared to Sverre Nypan. So yeah, very exciting player. And I think when we're looking, just zooming out to Manchester City, the following summer after this rebuild, you look at Juma Bar, you look at Claudio Echeverri, you got Vitor Hayes, as well as Sverre Nypan. These are all players that could go out on loan. They all might go out on loan. Some obviously will definitely be going out on loan. But by the time you get to that 2026 summer, It'll be interesting to see how much business the team really do, given they've got all these talents that hopefully are going to be coming back after successful loan spells, trying to push their way into the team. That you might well find that your depth is then filled out by those players rather than needing to make any too big kind of moves. So let's say Ederson stays for another season, then departs for free. Well, then your goalkeeper becomes that big move for the summer. But in and around the squad, you're looking to make use of these talented players that you've got coming back off their loan spells. So let us know your thoughts down below on the player, where you think he will progress, where you think his best position will be, whether he could make it to the first team next season after a successful loan spell. If you have any other players, any other topics, teams, tactics, etc. that you want covered on the YouTube channel, then let me know down below in the comments. Otherwise, we'll be back with many more content across this week.